green background.
Okay, so let me share my screen with you. So what are you thinking here?
Well, I kind of went a little all over the place.
That's okay.
With my brainstorming. So I started off with a sort of map idea because I don't know, I'm sure you've seen them, but like in souvenir stores, especially around the Disneyland area.
I love those.
Yeah, they'll sell like these mugs that'll have like a picture of California with a bunch of different landmarks. So
Yeah. I love those.
Yeah. So I love those too. So I started off with that idea, and then from there I sort of trailed off into different ideas from there.
And we said what, 5? Let's do 5, right?
Yeah, I believe you said 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always nice to see when somebody does this and does more, which means you were kind of going down the rabbit hole and following your ideas, which is kind of the whole point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When people do 1 or 2, then you go, okay, clearly you don't care. And, you're not really thinking through your ideas and getting ideas. Because part of this is like to your point, you're starting with something and then it sort of drifts into something else, right?
Yeah. I initially had a hard time. I texted you yesterday about it because at first I was like, oh man, like.
Oh, was that you? I didn't know that was you.
But you didn't?
No, because it just came up as a phone number. You texted me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you had my number saved, but
don't flatter yourself. All right, go ahead. Right?
No, but yeah, I did text. I texted you yesterday because I was like, oh, like I don't know like exactly like how to start, because in my mind it was like, oh, like I only had this one idea or of how or what an infographic should be. What an infographic should be. So
I had one student that worked at Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling me about this weird parking situation they had there, and I can't remember what it was, but his project he did for this was he did a map that sort of solved that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where Disneyland, and I'm surprised Disneyland didn't think of it themselves, where it could have just been something, either it's online or whatever, or, you hand it out as just a map or whatever, because there was something to do with some kind of weird parking. I can't remember what it was. And he did a really cool map. So he did that kind of map you're talking about, like sort of those old Disneyland maps kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it was really informational. Yeah?
Yeah.
So which one of these are you gravitating towards?
So I'm still kind of leaning on the on that whole California map thing, but I also have like one. There's some in there that sort of gravitate towards like the LA, like an LA County map or a US map, or and then there's some in there that I was kind of digging. There's one like on story structure, like a 3-act structure, the hero's journey.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Or that's like, a great idea.
Or like the process of a 2D of like 2D animation, or like a more simpler.
I love the story idea. That's a great idea.
Okay, which one? I have like the hero's journey and a 3-act structure.
So we have hero's journey here, right?
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
And 3-act structure, love that idea. Like nobody's ever done that before. I never thought of that. That's a great idea. You know what I love about the hero's journey thing? Is it's sort of a base story structure, correct?
Yeah.
I just think that's super relevant to the whole department in a weird way, or the whole program. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd kind of like to see you do that one.
All
How
right.
are you thinking about breaking it up?
So I'll probably take that thumbnail and maybe like develop it a little bit further. But what I initially had in mind was that because they always, when you search it up online, it's always like a circle of some sort. So that's kind of what I had in mind.
You know
And
what'd
then
be cool though is if you could do it where you literally um, show that idea and process or whatever literally as a hero's journey, right?
as a hero's journey.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
like literally the hero, maybe the hero in some way is going through through these ideas of, it's sort of like, what is it, the Iliad or the Odyssey? I think it's the Odyssey, right?
yeah,
Where he's going through, because that's the classic hero's journey, correct?
yeah.
He's going through these series of, um, I don't know, trials or whatever you want to call them, right?
Hmm.
Until he arrives back at whatever. But I mean, it might be fun to play with it in that kind of way, and sort of an illustrative, fun, you know, simple infographic way, but sort of use the idea of what you're explaining to explain the idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. When I drew up the three act structure in the hero's journey in my mind, I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe I was sort of thinking I could maybe recreate like some scenes or recreate some scenes or characters from several movies and sort of like it would
Sure.
almost sort of be like a mishmash of like different movies kind of going through the hero's journey.
If it clearly tells
Um,
the story, then or tells
yeah.
the information, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
And also, like, you're in animation and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you understand narrative, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you break this down as a narrative? Which is what you're talking about. And then
Mhm.
just simplify and make it clear, right?
Yeah.
But have some fun with it. I mean, have some fun with it. That's one
Yeah.
of the things I like about infographics. Like, I like the ones that are sort of, clean and clear and a little more dry. But I love it when people have some sort of fun with it. Where when I'm looking, I'm learning this stuff, and it's clever and it's fun, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea because I hear about this all the time, and it gets talked about all the time. The hero's journey thing. Why hasn't anybody made it like a infographic poster of that or whatever, or just something online or whatever? Because it can get very long-winded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think if you break these things down into like, oh, I kind of get that whole thing without having it to be so long-winded. Okay.
Yeah.
So give me a couple of just roughs on that, like this level, just so I can tell what's going on.
Okay. So you want me to go towards the hero's journey thing, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Okay.
I just think that's a cool idea. It's a super cool
Sounds
idea.
good.
Let's turn that one on. Okay. I have one here of a Disneyland map. I don't know why I have this. Somebody tell me. Yes?
That one's mine. I just the last
Okay, the
last
problem here
time.
is that's not a thumbnail. That's somebody else's map, correct?
Well, yeah, I just thought I could work on it. Like,
I mean, if you
just
want to look, if you're going to do a thumbnail, you need to do your own thumbnail. You can support it with this and say, hey, I'm kind of thinking like this kind of thing. Totally get it, right? But I got to know styling, things like that. Does that make sense?
yeah. The thing is, I'm just not the best drawer. When sometimes when I draw, it just turns out a complete mess. It hardly.
Well, that's all of us. But the one I was showing you last week, let's see if I can find it real quick. And the reason I was showing that is because it's a very vector-driven thing. Um, hang on. Like the one you're showing me here is super, really illustrative, like sort of painterly, where we could take advantage of, I gotta pull it up here. Oh, wait here. This one. So this one isn't really relying, this one's relying on a good solid shape language. See when it's up close how simplified it is, and it's straight on and there's no perspective. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I would go for that kind of thing. If you want to do a map like that, like look at this, it's just flat, simple. And we were talking about last time, what's making this work has a little perspective there, but you don't have to. What's making this work is sort of the density of when you put it all together, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
So just keep your shapes flat and simple, okay? And then I would give it a purpose other than it just being a Disneyland map. Maybe you focus on one area like maybe the new Star Wars area or something like that. I don't know. Because what I've read about the Star Wars area is they built a lot of interaction and design into it. So maybe like if you point out some unique spots that everybody might miss or something like that, okay?
Yeah.
So just think flat and don't worry about perspective. You know, just let Illustrator do what it likes to do. It loves doing this like flat art, which is, I think, is what's cool about it. Okay. And I have one here for Dodger Stadium. Who's that?
That's me as well.
Okay. All right.
I was thinking about like adding like the parking lot and like in certain corners have something like this showing the certain areas inside the stadium.
Sure. Yeah. Like just make it informational in a way that like you're focused on a certain kind of information for that particular place. Okay. And that's about it. And whatever your take on it is, you know, there's unique things in all these places at Disneyland they built in there. It could be hidden Mickeys. It could be, you know, the railing at the above the Pirates of the Caribbean have Walt and Roy's names in the wrought iron. You know, there's all kinds of stuff at Disneyland that people just miss. All these little cool little things. So maybe it's pointing that out. Okay. Either way, that's fine. Okay, who's this?
Oh, that's mine. That's
Okay, so what am I looking at?
so there was two different ideas that I had. There was the first one was about the bee population. The second one's about like recently the wildlife has been returning to like national parks and stuff because they're all
Is that
closed.
the one that's based on the wolves?
Which one?
The national parks?
That one's like, yeah, they were saying how like a bunch of like the wolves and like the deers and stuff or whatever have been returning to the parks.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, I think it's Yellowstone, I'm not sure. They introduced wolves back into the population, and for some reason, well, it's farmers and stuff like that, or ranchers. They hate wolves, right? They totally vilify them. So they wipe them out. So then they bring them back. And all this byproduct, and you probably already read this, all this byproduct of them bringing the wolves back, like all these trees came back that had died away, and like all these other things happened because they were a missing piece of the ecosystem. So other things that relied on that died away too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really interesting because I was reading it going, these trees came back because the wolves came back? It's totally weird, you know what I mean? But it's really cool. Now, did we say 5 thumbnails or 5 ideas?
We said 5 thumbnails.
Okay. Which one do you grab? I think they're both interesting subjects.
I kind of I want to do the wildlife one.
Yeah,
more.
I think that's totally cool. But okay, so you're showing like here. Am I seeing a graph there?
Yeah, it's just to get an idea of like where like the text would go. Or
I'd say the goal here is to stay away from that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's perfect.
And to show it in some other way. Now, sometimes those things get incorporated and then they're fine. Try to stay away from the cliches. Like if you go on, I should have put it up because it's kind of funny. If you go on like all those stock sites, you guys all know what a stock site is, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They always have like 50 variations of the bar graph going up, and then the business guy with an attaché case climbing the graph, you know, successful business guy. And it's just like stuff like that where you go, come on, man, that's so cheesy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you always want to try and find a way, if you want to show that bar graph idea, maybe it's, buttes, like Monument Valley and, wherever it is that you're talking about, maybe those kind of represent that, but then the story interweaves with that, like that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one, what's going to be your starting point for this? Is this the wolf thing or is it some other thing I don't know about?
The idea is to just I was looking more towards just showing like the lay of the land and just like showing all of it in general, and then having like little like I don't know what to call it, like little bubbles, I guess you could say, showing where like these animals are coming back to these areas, and then like these animals like the deer are going back to the grassy areas and stuff like that.
But what I want to know is why.
Oh, because what do you mean, like why?
Why is the wildlife coming back?
Oh, it's because there's no more people there like giving like feeding the animals food, so they're all like making their way back down.
Oh, is this like just
towards,
during the coronavirus thing?
Yeah, this is
Oh,
recently.
that's super interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, that's cool. Try though and explore it a little bit in metaphor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the metaphor? And I'm not saying you can't use a graph or this or that or whatever, like numbers or whatever you need to do. But I'm always kind of looking at like, okay, so that's your story. People went away and left things alone, and things are doing just fine. They're doing better, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of your story. And then it was sort of created by this situation. How do I tell that story? And then if I can find myself some sort of metaphor for it, then I can support that with visuals and put it into a really understandable way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, what's this one here?
The third one was actually kind of playing with that idea you were just talking about, where because like now that the national parks are closed, but it's because the national parks are closed, all the animals are coming back and the environment's starting to look a little better. So I wanted to do the whole idea of like the whole national park just separated from everything else as like a little chunk of land just like floating there.
Oh, I like that. Like isolation and yeah, that's part of the story for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, play with that. And then there was one or two that I put up there in the link where it had sort of a chunk of land and then it did all this sort of information stuff on it. Right?
Yeah.
And be careful too, like, is this going to be like sort of this chunk of land floating in the air?
That's the idea that I had, yeah.
Okay, just be careful and look at some of the other ones too. And again, Dribble's a good place to look for this stuff. And I probably a million other places. Like you don't necessarily, because what people really screw these things up for some reason when they go chunk of land floating and then like all the dirt or whatever coming underneath it, they get totally derailed there. Like either simplify it or it doesn't have to have that showing. Like just be clever with that, okay?
Okay.
What they tend to do is they try and make it look all real or whatever, and it's like, that doesn't look good. Like now you have this realistic idea with this infographic-y idea and it just looks weird, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So just really plan your design. I know I'm a broken record on that, but design is like it's the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And I like that it's current.
Thank you.
Which is nice. All right, I have this one. Who's this? Who is
That
it?
one's mine.
Okay. Sarah?
So, yeah, that one's mine. I didn't catch that we needed 5 thumbnails, so I just made 3. But basically, I heard about recently, like with COVID going on, that like Fullerton has like this nonprofit called Love Fullerton, and it's just ways like, have you ever seen like flow charts where it kind of helps you make a decision? Like it
What kind of
asks you
chart?
some questions. Huh?
What kind of chart?
Like a flow chart that helps you make
Oh, yeah,
decisions.
yeah.
So it's something kind of like that, where it gives you like information on ways to volunteer and help out like people who like need help during COVID. And so like it asks you questions and it takes you down through a flow chart. So I was thinking maybe like to show the information, either just do it through a flow chart with like graphics, or like make it like a map so you could kind of see the Fullerton map,
I
or
don't,
just kind of
can we get a little more like I like all that. I totally love all that. Can we get it where we're, and I know I'm always going back to this word, but so we're telling a little bit of a story there in a fun way, right?
uh-huh.
Like, okay, so let's say this one here, where it feels sort of like a maze a little bit.
Uh-huh.
What does that represent to you?
Well, I wasn't exactly sure like what theme I was gonna go, but like maybe like putting it in a heart. Some like other infographics I saw, they kind of used graphics that were related to the city. So maybe like
Sure, yeah.
I'll
I think
like
that's hugely important.
yeah. So maybe like use like buildings or like
Well, you can use icons. When you talk about Fullerton, their icon basically is the library, right?
right, okay.
So if you did a simple, graphic of that represents Fullerton. Like everybody's going to know that. I mean, you can, even if it's written, it's fine. But everybody goes, oh yeah, that's the symbol of the campus, right?
Right.
So that solves that problem. But
it wouldn't be just like Fullerton College, but it would be like the whole city of Fullerton.
I know, but I mean, you could use various icons.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Throughout.
So if you're talking about Fullerton campus, I can just go, boom, the library, that's Fullerton, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If I go, where else? Downtown Fullerton, what's the icon of downtown? If that's in it, what's the icon there? You know what I mean?
Maybe like the shops? Like
like it has a lot of very old world, those buildings are old.
Yeah.
So you could pick one of the cool looking ones and just do an icon of that, downtown Fullerton. Everybody gets that.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. There's a lot of, the good thing about Fullerton, it has a lot of iconic places and buildings and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like where I came from, Norwalk, there's nothing there. The only thing in Norwalk that anybody knows about is that big giant Norwalk Square sign. That's about it.
Yeah.
It was built in like 1952,
Uh-huh.
But other than that, it's just, there's nothing. Like nobody knows anything about that town. But Fullerton, it's got a lot of cool stuff. What I'm trying to figure out now, it's like, okay, so like I wasn't even aware of this, okay? And I should have been. And I've seen this Love Fullerton thing, I think, but I just didn't really know. Don't they do a lot of other stuff like volunteer to plant trees and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's been going on for a couple of years actually, and most cities in Orange County have a Love fill in the blank.
Okay, what I love about that also, I like that you guys are doing things that are current and doing things that speak into your experience right now. I think I love that, okay? But how can we say this? So in my opinion, you're solving the problem with somebody like me who just wasn't even aware of this. I mean, I was kind of aware that they did some stuff, but I don't know anything about volunteering for it. I don't know anything about who runs it or how I go about this. So this is awesome, okay? But now, how do we say it? Do we just do it as a journey? Like I'm starting here and I want to do this, and you know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Well, it was just kind of like I got this idea because I work for like a beauty company, and they sometimes like try to help people figure out like which look is right for you,
Sure.
But like I felt like maybe like if people don't know like what can they do to volunteer, it kind of helps you figure out like which role is right for you. Something like
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. So this one, like I don't mind this hard idea, but like what I'm trying to figure out is like, is there one more level of, okay, so this one's more of a map, right?
Right.
I mean, I kind of like the map idea. We just have to figure out like, what do you title it? You know what I mean? Like, and it's interesting because I thought about this the other day, and I've thought about it for years in different ways, but it popped in my head during this, right? And over the years, like when I've had my dark periods when I'm just by myself or whatever, I go, I should just go to the LA Mission and volunteer on Thanksgiving, help out with food, right?
Yeah.
And it was actually appealing to me because I'm like, okay, I'd actually be doing something that in a small way it matters a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then it started popping in my head again during this, where I'm like, would be actually nice to get out of the house and do something valuable, or some tiny valuable thing that I can maybe help with. That's what this is, and I think that's really it's a great idea. Okay, so the idea of a map is smart, because then you're going, here's your journey. You want to do this? Here's your various paths you can take. I like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can go over here, you can go over there, or split here into this, or however you want to say that. But the idea of a journey and a map, now you got to tell me, and it's probably just the title or whatever of it, how do we say that? Because what you're basically saying here is you want to help. Here's various ways, here's various paths you can take to do that, correct?
Or it's kind of like helping you figure out like which path is right for you, kind of. So like ask you like questions like, so at least like with beauty, like when you help someone figure out what like face type you are or what products you should buy, we ask like do you have oily skin? Do you have like dry skin? Or do you have that kind of stuff? So that this one would be like, do you have a lot of time, or do you have a lot of resource, or do you have a lot of talent?
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's great.
Something like that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That's where it kind of starts. And then it asks you more, like, so once you choose one path, it asks you another question. And it takes you, like, depending on the answer, it takes you to another place. And some of them are interconnected.
Okay, I love that.
Like some, some answers lead you to the same place. Like, I mean, different questions lead you to the same place. But it just kind of like helps you figure out, like, based on what you have, like, and who you are, like, what is right for you, kind of something like that. So maybe the title could be like, or I don't know, which volunteer role is right for you, or something like that. I'll think about it, something more catchy.
Sure. Yeah. And then, I think it should be very positive, very upbeat, and then maybe however you end that little journey, because I'd probably design a little character for it, just a real simple whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like a little figure walking or something. You could probably just reuse it.
Right.
But at the end of that journey, I'd want some sort of little, whatever, victory kind of thing, right? However you say that. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because the thing to me anyway, with this kind of volunteering stuff, there's a part of it that, like, whenever I've ever done anything it's kind of like this or whatever, it's sort of a selfish thing in a weird way, because you're like, okay, you're doing something to help people, but it makes you feel good to do it. You know what I mean? So you're getting something out of it too, which I'm not knocking. That's fine. That's
yeah,
great.
for sure.
But it does make you feel good at the end of it, And it's not like I sit around and pat myself on the back over it, but I go, okay, it just makes me feel good. You know what I mean?
It's also because like some of my friends were doing it because there was a lot of like elderly people who couldn't go and buy like groceries.
Yeah.
So like this is how I heard about it. Like people would all they had to do was just take like stuff they had at home and drop it off somewhere.
Sure.
And someone else would volunteer to pick it up and drop it off to the.
Yeah.
So kind of.
If you wanted, that could be another path. Is that in here?
Something like that. Yeah, it depends on like what you are comfortable with doing. So you kind of
that could be a little vehicle or whatever. Some fun looking little vehicle with whatever. Make everything. I think you should make everything fun.
Right. Yeah.
There's one thing that I'm really tired of with this right now is the messaging is so dark.
Right.
Okay. And I get that it is dark. I get it. But I don't think it's a good way to message things. I think you have to come to, and there's just stuff that comes through where people are doing, like Rufus Wainwright's been doing home concerts and, people doing all that kind of stuff and trying to be upbeat about it and all that. But I respond much more to the upbeat than this constant, relentless darkness. I get tired of that. Yeah. And I think everybody gets tired of it. Mm-hmm. And this is all positive. It's like, hey, you want to feel a little better in this and do something? Like get out of the house and actually do something that feels good? Yeah. Here's your path. I love that. Okay. And kick ass on this, and then I'll go through, or you go throw it at this Love Fulgen organization. You think they're not going to be all over that? They are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. So I guess I have to get it correct.
Huh?
I have to make sure that I have the right information then.
Contact them.
Yeah.
Contact them. You think they're not going to be in this, and work with them. Go, hey, I'm doing this thing. Here's my overall idea. I want to get some information from you guys. You know what I mean? And then if they start trying to art direct you, and you go, okay, I got my information. See you later. But
Okay.
I'm already getting art directed by my teacher. It's enough.
Yeah.
Because people just have this need to do that. It drives me crazy. Now the question is, so you're going to need little blocks of information, right?
Yeah.
And then your map has to make sense. You know, here's your various paths you can take. I mean, right now I'm liking that. This one here.
Yeah.
Which one are you gravitating towards?
I kind of think the map would be fun because I could like play around with like other stuff, not just like abstract ideas. Like abstract. I feel like the flow chart and the heart would be more abstract. I think there would be more like real stuff in there, but then I think the map would be like more realistic. Not realistic, but like
Easy to
it would,
read.
yeah.
And then the same thing I was just saying to Luke, like those ones I was just showing you from Hayden, whatever his name is. You know, don't worry about perspective and stuff. These could just be, you know, fun graphic symbols of all the different things that you're doing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like if you have one where it's like this path goes off and that's the one where you're delivering food to elderly people or whatever, then you got a fun little, you know, delivery van thing with somebody in it driving it, you know, and everything looks, you know, maybe something says on the side of it, Love Fullerton, you take their logo and you put it on there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And think really simple. Like, let me see if I can find something here real quick. I go to Dribble a lot because they just have a lot of vector stuff. You know, like this. Look at this one.
Yeah.
Or, and it doesn't have to have any perspective on it. That's the whole thing. It could just be just a flat view. That's fine. Like this. This is fun right here.
Yeah.
Right? Or this. Look. Like if it was me, that's how I think.
Yeah.
I think less like this and more like that and like that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Like I don't like this one. This looks cheesy. This isn't bad, but you can make that way more fun. This is cool right here. I like that.
Yeah.
Right? That all make sense?
Uh-huh.
And do the same thing with your icon, whatever icons you're doing. You know, they're just nice, flat, like that Hayden guy that did the Disneyland thing. What makes that all work is this color scheme. And make sure you've got maybe there's a color scheme to this that's telling the story also, right? That's a common in this kind of thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You know, with this area might be red and that represents this area, like maybe that's how you connect it, where you have a legend and it has like little round color icons and you go, the various areas that you could do are sort of highlighted in those colors in your map. It's like, oh, you want to volunteer to drive and do this? Oh, you want to volunteer to do this kind of thing? That's in this color. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's by like color region.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be that everything in that region is like red. It's just everything in there is like maybe a monochromatic version of red with a pop of color, and this is all monochromatic blue.
Got it. Oh, yeah. I see. Okay.
So you don't just have to map the area out in the color, just everything in there's that palette, right? Maybe you just do a monochromatic palette and you can go into your color theme thing or whatever and easily make a whatever kind of palette you want.
Right. Yeah.
So if you start with red, it's going to give you all these options, and one of them can be monochromatic, and you go, okay, cool, I'm just going to do all these monochromatic, maybe one accent color, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think it's a cool idea. Now refine it a little bit, right? Okay. And don't hesitate to call them when that you need information.
Okay.
I actually think it's really good for you to do that as a student or as whatever, especially as a student.
Okay.
Because it's part of what you would do in the real world. You would have to interact with whatever company you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, you want to have accurate information. Plus, they're probably going to tell you like a bunch of things you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, you know what else we're doing? We're doing this. We got on deck and actually like to get it out there. And if you do a really nice job, they're probably going to be like, can we put this on our social media? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And those things are good. I mean, those are, when I was at Fullerton, I won some Red Cross poster thing, right? And it was a huge, big deal. It opened a lot of doors for me. They wrote it up in the LA Times. They interviewed me on TV. I got a letter of accommodation from the school district. I leveraged it into like 2 or 3 other things. These things matter.
Okay.
And by the way, it doesn't matter. Like I get people and they go, well, it's not why you do it. And I go, no, that's bullshit. You're doing something that's actually valuable and cool. And you started doing it because that's what you want to do. But there's nothing wrong with going and leveraging into other things. You should.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the school eats up this kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So you're going to give me another rough pass. Okay. I think I figured this out, correct?
So should I go with a map?
I would go with the map.
Okay. So give you like more thumbnails?
I would just give me like, let me look at it again here. Like it's going to be this one.
But kind of like more clear of what stuff is going to be on there?
Just more, I think it needs to say a little more of, you want to do this, here's your path, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, you know, maybe some places like it goes, you want to do this, maybe that breaks off into 2 different things, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just really clear. I like the idea of a journey and a path. And you're you know, you're following your path or whatever, or you're trying to follow the right path that you want to, you know, that it's as a volunteer, right? So I think you just got to clarify a little more now.
Okay.
Like this whole process, I probably said this, it's big to small, big to small, big to small, right? I don't care if it's vector. I don't care if it's just design in general, right? Now, I always look at it that I pull my camera out and everything's blurry and I just keep turning that lens until everything's clear and in focus. That's what this process is to me. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like now you got the big idea, great idea. Now, okay, I got to dig in a little bit and go, how do I really piece this information together and make it fun and all clear and cool?
Okay.
Right? And it's just refinement.
Okay.
So we want to refine the idea. Then we go into the same idea with actually executing it and starting to go, okay, here's the big shapes. Now we're working in the smaller shapes, all that kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
And think simplicity. These things, these icons and everything should be super fun and super simple.
Okay.
Right? I'll try and find this one that one of my students did. It's a little drier than this because it was a different context, but she did a lot of iconic buildings and they were really well done. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying follow her styling because her styling was a little more straight. It was stylized, but it was a little more serious kind of thing.
Okay.
But this, I think, should be super fun.
Yeah.
Bright colors, fun. And also maybe at the end of it, speak to, you know, as the person maybe leaves the map, you know, you speak to like volunteer doesn't end with the coronavirus or this problem.
Oh, right.
There's more paths to come or something like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I love the idea of this spark. I mean, I didn't know that much, just like I just said, I didn't know that much about this organization, but now I'm kind of interested in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So make sure you contact them with whatever information you need.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm sure they'll be, I can't imagine they wouldn't be super into helping you out.
Okay.
Because you're getting information out. Because if you do a cool job with it, then we'll do something with it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get rid of that. I love these ones that are current. Okay, I've got one here that's 2 thumbnails. Why do I have 2 thumbnails?
Oh, that one's mine. I have another picture as well.
Another what?
Another picture as well with 2 other ones.
But we need 5, right?
Oh, I thought it was 4.
5.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what is this?
So for the first one, I was gonna do like a milk tea, like the type.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people do boba.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I don't know if they did boba actually in this project. They did boba for like a business thing or something. So is this the process of making it?
Yeah, and like the different things that are in it or whatever. So like the straw and then like the actual tea.
You got to give me the process.
Yeah, I was also gonna add like the other flavors as well, and like how you get to the finished product, I guess.
Yeah. So give me the process of making it, right?
Okay.
Which you could do in one image, like that one that's on the, because they did it metaphorically on here, I think. Okay. Oh. Here's that one I was talking about the landmass, by the way.
Stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not?
No, it stopped for some reason.
Oh, that's weird. Okay. Like this one here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about this is this, I like the way these pop out and these little like lines and all that stuff are fun. But it's sort of this interior process in here. I mean, that's just a one way of handling it. But you want to do something like that. If you want to do one, not something like this, but clever like this, right?
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with that. A process is fine. I just, you know, how you're going to convey it is that's the trick, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm fine with that process. That's fine. Who's this now? Who's this here? Is he not here?
No, he's not.
Okay, yeah, I won't worry about that. I already did that one. I got another one of an existing thing. Who's this?
That's mine again. I just can't draw worth anything.
Okay,
So
I want you to understand something with thumbnailing. Thumbnailing, and the reason I like you guys to thumbnail, it's not about getting a great drawing. It's just about learning how to sort of convey your information in a clear way. It's not about draftsmanship and all that kind of stuff, okay? Like, I don't care. When I was an art director or any of that stuff, I didn't care. As long as I could read it and you could talk me through it, and I go, okay, I get it. If it was a graphic designer or something, that was fine. Okay. Now, if it's somebody who's an illustrator or something, that's a different thing. But even in that thing, it's like, I don't want to spend a bunch of time on their thumbnails. I just want to go, they go, here's the idea. And I look at it and I go, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's cool. Move that over there, do that, do this. Boom, done. Okay. So don't get hung up on drawing. Just go for it. Okay. And it's just simple shapes. Just make sure things are readable. That's it. Okay. Could be a stick person. Doesn't matter. Because all you're trying to do is convey information. Okay, who's got this Manhattan one?
Oh yeah, that's mine.
Where are you at? Let me see.
I'm right here.
Who is it? Oh, Connor? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a map of that area?
Yeah, but I'm still trying to figure out the style there. But I was thinking like a bright lights thing or
Like a what?
thing. I was thinking of a bright light style because of the city and or a comic style.
Comic style would be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they should be fun. I think everything should be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't do it.
But I have, is this the only thumbnail I have?
Yeah.
How come I only have one?
I either forgot, didn't know, or didn't have time to do
No,
it.
you knew. You were in class and I videotaped it and I put it online. See, that's one thing I do like about this process is when people go, I wasn't sure. It's like, you can go back to the video. It's right there. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because I don't think I'm a hard ass as a teacher or anything, but I do think like there's reasons why we do these things. Okay, there's reasons why we do multiple iterations. Like you just said, oh, I'm not sure if it's this style or that style. Well, that's what you worked out in your thumbnails. If you did 15 thumbnails and went, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that. Well, I'll try this. And then the other problem is you have one idea. You have one eye drawing, one idea, and you haven't worked anything out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need that worked out. It's hard for me to comment on it because I don't have anything to comment on. I just have an idea, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to figure that out. You got to get me a thumbnail that I can read and understand stylistically what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And
like you have it regioned off, those regions could be colored out regions, however you want to do that. Okay. And you're going to at least need some icons and things in there, right?
I'll deal with that today and hand it to you tomorrow.
Okay, great. And I get also, by the way, I get that a lot of people, this is new stuff. Okay. That this is a new process for you, for some people. Okay. That haven't done this. But it's important, and you'll develop kind of your own process and things through different, this kind of thing, or maybe another class or whatever. But you need to develop a process. The process, and I probably said this 100 times, but the process is what makes you consistent. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things I never understood before I went out and became a professional is I was like, how do these people produce every day on demand, like creative stuff? They have a process in place that they, for me, it was like, get the brief or whatever it is, research, man. The first thing I do is research. And then I'd start looking at like idea, then I'd be doing my thumbnails and maybe a little more research, and everything's sort of intertwining back and forth. And I'm coming up with all these ideas and I'm going, oh, the way to handle this is like this. And I arrive at something. I don't sit down and go boom and nail it. Almost never. I don't think anybody does that. Okay. You go look at Pentagram or any of the big agencies, man, and look at all the background they do on those big projects they do, and all the research and all the exploration, and it's multiple teams doing that, okay, to arrive at an idea. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because that's basically what we're doing. So just do what you just said, just throw it down. And again, don't worry about the drawing. I just need to be able to see what's going on, okay?
All right.
I think too many people get hung up on like draftsmanship and this stuff, and I don't think that's a good idea. Even though I think draftsmanship's a good idea. Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we thinking here?
So the top two are like teaching the rules to a traditional Japanese card game.
I like that. That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And then the bottom one, I work in the kitchen at Chick-fil-A, so it was kind of like the process of like how the kitchen runs, and it's all like I did a bunch of like cows running all of it and stuff.
I like that too.
So I had more ideas, but I did a lot of like drawing in my head, and I kind of talked myself out of the other ideas and kind of landed on these two.
Not bad. The one good thing about thumbnail, the other good thing about thumbnail is that you don't really commit much anything to it. I like that.
Yeah.
Where like I can have an idea, spend 5 minutes on it and go, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or I get a lot of them in my head that I think won't, just like to your point, what you just said, and I'll go, this doesn't work, but I'll draw it anyway. And then either it sparks another idea, or on paper I go, this actually kind of does work. It usually goes the other way for me. I'm in the car or whatever, because I use the car as kind of a think tank. And I'd be thinking about a project and I go, oh, I got it. I got like 4 ideas. I just got to pull over at this coffee shop and I'm going to draw them real quick. And then I draw them and like none of them work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though in my head they were great ideas, but once I put them on paper, I'm like, man, this doesn't work. They just fall apart, And then
I have a tendency to overthink things.
Well, so do I.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like is, I have a tendency to overthink things, but I also have a runaway mind all the time. So my mind's always chattering, which is actually annoying. But it helps me with narrative and things like that. So as soon as I see something, it leads to something else, and leads to something else, and leads to something else. And a lot of it's sort of abstract a little bit. One of my students in my illustration class pointed that out. She goes, you're more of an abstract thinker. But it becomes linear at some point. But I do like that abstract sort of thing where I'm not really trying to put it together yet. I'm just letting all these things start to form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And everybody's got different ways of doing that, Which one do you want to do?
I was leaning more towards the kind of rivery ones with the trees in the top left.
That's the one on the card game process?
Yeah.
I like both of these. So I don't know if I would okay, so is this sort of a river idea, this here?
Yeah.
And why is that?
A lot of the card game is based around a lot of poems, and a lot of the poems are based around like the beauty of nature and that kind of.
Okay, I love that. But what I would do is make sure, it looks like I think you are, I would have this come out, you know, waterfall down, stream goes around, waterfall down, stream, you know, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I found some reference recently, I just stumbled on it, I'll have to find it again, of some vector graphic stuff where they had like a river in it, and it was so simple, but it was really cool.
Mhm.
The way you conveyed the water, it was just super simple, you know? Okay, so do that one.
Cool.
So start
Thank you.
refining, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we thinking here?
Okay, this is mine.
Uh-huh.
The first one, I put a pill inside to try to show something about vitamin medicine or some pill, and these curves shows the information
About
about
what
that
again?
vitamin pill. I'm sorry?
So are these 5 different ideas?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then, okay, so the first one is about what?
About a vitamin pill, I put it inside the curves, and the curves are showing the information about that vitamin,
What does the curve represent?
showing the energy or something, dynamic, something like that.
When you start saying something,
I mean, energy or movement,
but how does that relate to it?
how I relate it to them. I write information.
No. How does that idea of energy relate to the pill?
I put some vitamin which gives you energy or something.
Here's
Some
the
energy.
problem. When I look at it as a viewer, now I don't know what kind of information would be in there and would explain it. It feels like the pill thing and this shape, they need to interrelate somehow. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
Okay.
if it's the idea of energy or something, then I've got to sort of read it as that, okay? And it could be a pretty abstract idea of energy or something or motion, but I've got to sort of get that pretty quick, right?
Okay.
Infographic,
Alright.
like there's a level of aha-ness to other types of design that I think are interesting, where if you do, the New Yorker does it all the time. They do a really cool cover, but then you kind of go, oh, and you get it after, it takes you a while to get it, right? Infographics to me is more of a fast read, fun, fast, informational, right? So everything sort of needs to say something interrelated to that information that you're creating. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, so what's this one?
Okay, second one is a milk bottle. On the right hand side, I tried to show the oat leaves, and the left hand side is filled with milk, and the information I will write it on the left hand side about nutritions of all that.
Okay, that's a more clever solution. I like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Coconut oil.
Third one is about coconut oil, and the information is on the drops and coconut itself on the top.
Okay, these two you're starting to do what I'm talking about. Was
Okay.
this literally the first one you did here?
Yeah.
Okay, it's weird because usually, whether it's a drawing or ideas or whatever, you can start seeing them get better as you go. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Because you're getting warmed up. Okay,
Mhm.
you've got to get warmed up.
Okay.
Last one, is this just about this process?
This is about like makeup tips, what to use on the face on the bubbles, and there is a face with makeup.
I like this one.
Okay. I have one more.
Do I have it on my thing?
Fifth one.
Oh, there's one on here? Oh,
No,
here.
no, one more here. That's the steps, and someone is traveling, and on these boxes, I will write the information tips for traveling.
Tips for
And
traveling during this crisis?
Yeah. And someone is taking his luggage. That's the back of the person.
Yeah.
And he's carrying his luggage, and on that back, he's leaving some tips.
Well, the thing, again, we're going back to path here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is tips for traveling right now during all this craziness, right?
Yes.
Which I like. I do like that. And I like the idea of a path again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have this traveler with their bag.
That's the back of the traveler only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I like is this idea of So, damn it. I like the idea of this, of something like that. And yeah, you put these things in perspective, your information,
Okay.
you know, and maybe you can expound on it a little bit. I kind of like that because it's current.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then I don't know, something, you know, again, maybe you do a monochromatic, just so you have, you know, you're going to have information probably.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, maybe back here, I just do some real simple.
I can make some buildings at the back.
I might
where-
just do like
yeah.
like planes on a tarmac, but do them all monochromatic and ghost them back here.
Oh, okay.
And then, you know, maybe just do a real simple, like,
Some iconic buildings.
I would just do it like an airport.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
All right.
that's really, when you think of travel, you think of airports, right?
Mhm, right.
But then I would do it all monochromatic back there, like a plane, a control tower, and then probably flip the plane, do it over here, all monochromatic and all knocked back. And then this is all in the foreground.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And planes, by the way, they're simple. You know, you do that fuselage shape. You don't want to overdo them. And they
Okay.
have that tail fin. They have their
Mhm.
wings. You know, it's really simple.
Okay.
Same thing with the control tower. They're usually something like that. They
Mhm.
got windows in them. They got a bunch of antennas and whatever on the roof.
All right.
You know, it's real simple. Okay. But
Okay.
I would do all that monochromatic and push back, or you come up with a different solution. That's fine too. I'm just
Yeah.
riffing. Okay. All right.
All
That's
right.
cool. I like that.
Okay.
I like all this. I know I've said it already, but current
Okay.
related stuff is cool. What am I doing here?
So I'll go through with the traveling one.
Yeah.
Okay.
To start, you know, fleshing it out.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Okay.
Where's James at?
I'm right here.
What are you thinking?
I either wanted to do like what a virus is, or how to boost your immune system, or I wanted to do plagues of the past.
So these are all different ideas in here?
Yeah, they're just sketches.
Good. Plagues of the past. That's kind of interesting. You know what else is
Yeah.
interesting? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, I was just trying to like see how, I guess, how society had worked past them and how we got through and how we basically survived them, you know.
What's interesting too is like the other stuff, like the when you talk about plagues of the past, you go, or at least I think it's interesting because you read about the Spanish flu, right? And that was right before the Depression,
Right.
and how it knocked the economy sideways and all that stuff, or it was one of the things that knocked the economy sideways. It's all the stuff you don't think about that these things influence. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that's interesting. Which one are you gravitating towards?
Probably the plagues or the virus one, or what it is. I
Just
was
what
going to
it is?
decide today. Yeah.
So what am I seeing here?
I basically was just looking at infographics I liked and just kind of taking like their big shapes or their overall
Okay.
kind of layouts.
I wouldn't do any pie charty stuff.
No.
I'm trying to stay away from those, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in these kind of presentations, but the person comes, usually in my world, it was capabilities presentation. So we go to a manufacturer, or they'd come to us and they go, we want to do a capabilities presentation. And they'd go pull out their, you know, sleeping pill of a presentation. It was usually PowerPoint.
Right.
And they'd have all these charts, and they go, yeah, our marketing, and everybody in the place is snoring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Literally one time, 3 people in the meeting were snoring. Okay? And the guy just kept going. That's what blew my mind. He just kept going. Like, he didn't read the room and go, I got to wrap this up, man. I'm putting people to sleep. He just kept going, which is bizarre to me. So what type of styling do you think you're going to do it with?
I'm still kind of deciding that. I feel like I'm still actually researching a lot of the looks and.
All right,
I
so
don't know
focus
what
on, the one you said, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but give me one or two pretty clear thumbnails next.
Okay.
Like, I don't have a problem with this because you did a lot of exploration, and I think that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually encourage that, like, explore the crap out of this, okay? Because it takes a lot of exploration to come up with good ideas. And I also think, like, looking at things and going, I kind of like a little that, a little this, and you'll just end up at your own conclusion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I want you on a good time frame. That's always your weakness, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
We got another map, Universal Studios. That's probably Luke's, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's not worry about that. We know what we're doing. And then where's this one?
That one's mine. I've read too much bad news recently, so I didn't want to do anything
Good.
current. So then I started like thumbnailing a bunch of stuff from Twin Peaks, the show.
Oh yeah.
And like maps and stuff, and then I remembered that we were supposed to do something real. So I remembered this story. It's this guy that was in France that could not stop eating.
Yeah.
And like he ate like a bunch of weird stuff. There's a possibility that he ate a child.
Wow.
And like whole cows and stuff. And I just thought it'd be kind of funny to do these like little like really flat, like vector shape, like illustrations of these
I love that.
things.
I love that. It's a
Wasn't
weird story. Huh?
Wasn't his stomach like a third of his body or something like that?
Yeah,
when they
it was
autopsied him.
Just really
It's a crazy
weird
story.
stuff.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love this right here, this style right here. Right?
Yeah.
And I love the inclusion of that. You know what I mean? You there?
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
Just like real styly. That's how you're seeing it, right? Real styly,
Yeah.
graphic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. Do that.
Okay.
Tell me that story, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Because most of the time, like if you read this article in Rolling Stone, I guarantee you well, I don't know, they'd probably have an interesting solution to it. It would be more of an editorial solution. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I love that. I think that's great. And plus it's a weird subject matter you pick, which is super cool. Okay, great. Okay, who do I got? Let me check. Tatiana,
Yep.
what are you thinking?
I'm thinking about making a mini comic about health and a blood cell.
What's a blood
How-
cell? Or what's a blood? Are they intertwined?
Yeah, kind of like how to keep your body healthy despite the fact you got the coronavirus.
So also current, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to do what? Simple flat shapes, and it's going to be very clear, this process or whatever it is you're explaining, correct?
Yep.
And are we just going to do simple? Do simple. Like just design them really simply, very iconic or whatever, you know, and just make it clear, okay?
Okay.
So is this about keeping yourself healthy during this whole thing?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know why it, hang on a sec.
Is it too blurry?
No, it's fine. That's fine. I know my machine for some reason, it looks like it knocked back the opacity a little bit, which is just weird. I understand that. And don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. You know, give it a little something, story, whatever you want to call it. Okay?
Okay.
Just bump it into a little bit of fun, I think. Okay? Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, I haven't
Where's yours
gone
at?
yet.
I have one still in the
put it-
folder too.
You
I
what?
put it in the folder this morning
What time?
at around 9:30ish.
9:30. I should have it.
I put it in a separate file because for some reason it wasn't letting me rename it when I put it in. So like it's in the file, but then it's in like a sub file that says my name so that you could recognize it. Sorry.
I think I might have lost it on because it was in another file and it kind of screwed me up when I was.
Sorry about that. It wasn't letting me change the name, and you said to like, there we go.
I have one in there too. The Jimmy G thumbnail. That's mine.
When did
Huh,
that
it
one
says
get
10:30.
This
That
one
is
got put in
odd.
at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I thought I would put it in. I don't know what I had in my mind. I already did it.
Mine says 10:30, but I uploaded it at 9:30.
No, yours was there before because I remember it.
Okay. Who knows?
No, I know what happened. It was in a folder, and then I was trying to get everything into one folder, and I screwed it up. That's my problem. But I don't like things in there after. I want them a half an hour before class.
Yeah, sorry.
Part of that also is because I get people sometimes, and make sure you're not doing this. I get sometimes. Yesterday, I had somebody upload whatever it was, a thumbnail or something. It was 300 megabytes. You know how long it took me to download that thing? So that's why I want it done a half hour before class. And by the way, when I go in and grab everything, I'm always emptying the folder. So if you go back and go, where did my thing go? I empty the folder after I download it. Okay?
Okay.
Because I'm trying to keep the folders clear because now everything I'm doing is in my Google Drive. So it's going to fill up fast. So I'm trying to empty it out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes it easier for me that I just go, it's always empty. And then I'll go back, I don't know, 15 minutes before, or 45 minutes before class starts. I'll go, oh, there's two more. I know there's two more. And then I take them out and I clear it, right? And then like for this class at 10, I'll go back and check at 10, and if there's a couple more, I'll download them. After 10, I shut it, and I don't look at it anymore, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Why did that not download? Hang on. Okay, that's weird. Hang on a second. Oh, and I got to get a screen grab, too. Okay, why did these not? Okay, it's downloaded. Are these big files?
Mine's just a
Shouldn't be.
picture. It shouldn't be large.
Yeah, mine shouldn't be that big.
It's downloading. It's just taking a long time. This is why I don't like them late. And Ryan, yours were there, to your point. They were there. I remember that. One of these is huge because, I mean, this thing's taken forever to download. Let's look at this one. Damn it. Okay, I don't know what's going on with this. No, none of them are that big. I don't know what's going on with it. Give me a second. Well, let's just do this.
Would it be easier if I just emailed you the file?
No, I don't know what's going on here. Hang on. Because they're not big. Yours is 2 minutes. Okay, so let's just look at it on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we thinking here?
So I was trying to go like two different ways. I was thinking of like a LA or like a beach theme.
Okay.
So for the first one, it's just a street in LA, Rodeo Drive. I was kind of thinking like a hybrid between like a map and like fun things to do on the street.
Sure.
That's like one idea right there. And then the second one is just like basically like a map of LA, and like have the most recognizable parts have like a cool icon. You know, think of like a creative way to like distinguish the different areas.
Yeah, they always do those like novelty maps. I always like those.
Yeah, something like that.
You know, they have the you know, you're looking at the ground plane and everything's coming out in like 3-point perspective.
Yeah. Something that idea.
What's this one?
And then so that's when I started thinking of the beach. So I was kind of thinking an infographic of like how to choose your first board and like basically like the description of different types of boards and like
I like that.
yeah, something around there. And then the next one, the bottom left, is like it's kind of another version of the map, but more like focused on the beaches. So like LA County beaches, and just have like more kind of icons like distinguishing the places. And then that one's just like a beach essentials thing. I was kind of thinking have like a 2D flat design of the entire beach, and then just have like like little details like sun chairs and like the umbrellas, and just kind of think about things to take to the beach and stuff like
And then
that.
what's this one?
That one is kind of like so for surfing, it's gonna teach you like how to read the waves. So it's kind of just like a broad description of like the anatomy of the wave and like how to decide which one you should ride and like stuff like that. Like
And
the
then, like
surf.
what board to use for what?
Yeah, like
I
things
love
like
that.
that.
I like that one the best. But there's also
Yeah, that's
something here,
what
and
I
I don't
like.
know if it. I'm wondering also, and this is just again me just throwing an idea out, but like, what board shapes are regional to California that were developed here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess you.
Like, I don't know, the diamond tail. Maybe that was developed. I don't know if it was, but like, is it? Can I show sort of this map of the coast thing, and then it boop boop pops out, and it's like this type of board was developed. Because there was a lot of guys that I thought this was really cool because I used to surf when I was younger. There was all these guys that they'd have little shops. Like it always looked really cool, and they were just shapers, man. They just made boards.
Yeah.
And some of those guys were innovative, like the Zephyr shop. They were coming up with all these like ideas and innovative things that became sort of standard shapes and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess you.
So I like this one.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I was kind of leaning towards too.
Okay, good. I think that's great. And again, it's like an interesting subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not easy to do.
Cool.
Okay, what are we seeing here?
Okay, so I'm not sure because I know that like you said like 5 images, and I took that as 5 different ideas, but it's
I like that.
most of okay. So I ended up like low-key rabbit holing, and so in total I have 14 different possibilities, but I just chose like the top 6 that had the most potential.
Okay.
But if those don't work, then I can make more. But so the first one, which is the top left, so the first thing I was thinking about is doing a comparison of different regions in California, the cost of living in that area versus the minimum wage in that area. Because like a lot of people right now, like they either are working completely minimum wage, like a lot of grocery stores and stuff, they're hiring at just base minimum wage level, and that's majority of jobs at the moment for people who don't have jobs right now.
Right.
And like California is one of the most expensive places to live, so it's just like just the sheer difference of like, oh, like the minimum wage, it's so easy. Like different states, they're like, oh, we make $7 an hour and it's fine, and I'm like, that would get me nothing here. That would barely get me a tank of gas.
Right. No, what do you even get?
Like,
yes.
Yeah. So like basically I was just like thinking about that of like economy based stuff, because I didn't want to do something that was like directly related to coronavirus, but like something that was more of an effect of it, because
That's totally fine.
I think that like, epidemics or like different like major issues that make you like look at different aspects of the either the economy or just like life in general.
Absolutely.
And then the next one to the right of that, I love lighting design as like in like live theater. And my favorite light is called the LECO. So it's an ellipsoidal reflector light. And so it was going to be like basically the anatomy of a LECO. So if you were to basically gut it, what parts would you find? How does it work?
Okay, I love that.
And then underneath that to the left, kind of like the creation of an animated film. So just like for a really quick example, because I knew some of the stats of it, like I just chose Treasure Planet. Like it took 4.5 years, blah blah blah. There was this many people on the team. This is how much it made in the grossing box office. How much it took to make. How many voice actors? How many crew members? The timeline of it.
That's
basically like what goes into an animated film.
I like that. I mean, I like all these so far. And what's this one? India?
And then the other one, I thought that I could get a really cool color palette because I have a lot of like Indian silks at my house. So I love like all the color palettes that are included in them. So I thought that I could get a good one with doing like kind of like a touristy map of India So like where in which provinces, like what are the like kind of like major sightseeings or like even the major like imports or exports of that province, and then like just like other like tips when you're traveling.
If you did an India map like that, but it was all that kind of namaste stuff, because a lot of the tourism that's driven over there is that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That had those kind of sites in it. I
Mhm.
haven't seen that. I mean, I don't know if somebody's done it or not, but I've known a lot of people go over there because they're into all that namaste, mindfulness, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's like those kind of things that relate to that, maybe.
Yeah, I was considering doing like a temple map of Thailand, but because I already did something related to that earlier this year, I figured maybe doing something similar to that
You
in
know what
India
was
would.
interesting? I was watching it was a couple years ago. I was watching an Anthony Bourdain show, and I forgot where it was. He was in Malaysia or someplace, but there was this huge, like it looked like it kind of looked like how you think of as India or whatever, but they were in this spot where it was sort of foresty, like their version of a forest kind of thing.
Mhm.
But like in the background, they're talking or whatever, and in the background, it's just this huge kind of, there's trees and stuff, but it's sort of open, and there's just like 1,000 temples back there that've been back there forever. You know what I mean? And when they had done that show at that time, there wasn't that many people there. Like I was looking at as they were going through these things, I'm like, these are all sort of falling apart, and they're not touristed up. You know what I mean? And there wasn't a bunch of people there. It was interesting. So I'm like, man, right now would be the time to go there, because now it's going to become a tourist thing now, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that was really interesting how many of them were there, and that how old they were, and that really everybody wasn't going there yet, because I'd never heard of it, and probably I'm assuming other people hadn't either. Otherwise, it'd be a tourist trap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's interesting too. What's this one?
Okay, so that one, so I actually have a friend who's immunocompromised, and we've been talking a lot, like over Zoom or like video chats and stuff. And he was talking about how he's basically in solitary confinement because of all this stuff. Like his parents don't want to be near him, like no one wants to be near him because they don't want to get him even more sick.
Right.
So I was thinking about that, and I remember like reading this article in high school about solitary confinement and how it affects prisoners and like how like just like it completely degrades like your mental status when you're like just like trapped in a box kind of thing. So I thought that it'd be kind of interesting to explore like just the different like psychologies of solitary confinement and how that affects different people.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then the last one, it was kind of just like a playful one that I did more as like a joke. So the day in the life of a sea otter. So like just like little facts about sea otters and stuff, just like how they help the environment, what they generally do during their day, etc.
Which one are you gravitating towards? Because I mean, you have a lot of good ideas.
I think I'm honestly gravitating towards I'm gravitating more towards the maps, I would say. I would probably say the India one.
And you're going to give me a bunch of icons and things like that in there?
Yeah.
Simple?
Yeah, I was thinking just really pretty basic, just really like rich colors and like letting that kind of do most of the work for it.
Yeah, they do have like really nice color palettes. What was the other one you were saying?
And then like probably because it's like slightly more relevant, the California one like versus the minimum wages. The only thing with that one is it requires a lot more like statistics and like research.
That's good.
But
look, one of the reasons I like doing this is you as a designer. Are you a graphic design major?
No, so I'm doing the 2-year animation certificate, but I like to do kind of like I like to do pretty much a little bit of everything. So
to be honest with you, none of this really, it's all kind of the same, the process really. But one of the things I like about doing this type of project is you have to do research, right? Yeah. And you need to know how to do. We were just talking about this last night, me and my girlfriend. She owns a restaurant. She assigned one of her managers to do some research on some equipment. Okay, he came back and goes, here's the pricing, here's the this, here's the that. And she goes, okay. Then she goes online, and in 5 minutes she goes, I just found 5 places that are cheaper. You know what I mean? So he doesn't, and then she was kind of getting annoyed with it. And I go, he's a young guy. He doesn't know, like you have to learn how to research.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I go, he did the first part of it. I mean, he did get the information. He just didn't plug in like, okay, dude, the point here is to get the stuff as inexpensively as possible. The best price for the best product we can get for that, whatever, right? Be competitive and all that.
Well, also the problem with like that is sometimes depending on the browser that you're using, they will like the algorithm for it will purposely drive up prices or like show you things that are more expensive if you research it a ton.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways around that. That's part of this whole game, by the way. I mean, one of the things I always loved about design work was that I love doing the research. You know what I mean? And still to this day, I'll be having conversations with people and they'll bring up whatever. Sometimes it happens in class. I just had somebody in class do that before this all happened. And they go, how do you know all this weird crap about this? And I go, because I did a job one time that took me down the research rabbit hole of this weird thing. So I know all this weird stuff because of all this research I've done over the years. You know what I mean? And one of the main things, that process is not going to change. If you go into animation, they're going to go, you know, here's the brief, here's the story. I mean, wherever you are in the food chain, if you're developing a character, you're going to do some research on that. Like, what is this type of person like? Because how do I know how to design it if I don't know how they think? You know what I mean? So like this thing where you're talking about isolation behavior, that could be something that you put into a character design because you look it up and you go, oh, this character's experience before we ever meet him on screen was this. That kind of relates to this thing I know a little bit about. You know what I mean? And make weird connections like that really help your, that's what makes a character rich. That's what makes a backstory rich. That's what makes all that stuff. And I'd argue when you make a product, like when I made toy design, I used to tell the team, I go, if we're not having fun making this thing, it's not going to resonate with the person who buys it. You know what I mean? It's going to feel like a product that nobody had any fun making. It's just going to feel like that. We're making toys, man. We're supposed to be having fun doing this. And if we're just coming in and going, I hate this place, I hate this job, man, you're not going to make fun product. You know what I mean? You got to, and the research part of it is a big part of that. Okay, I don't care what you're doing because everything's design. Animation's design, illustration is design, graphic design is design, package design is design. Okay, so this process is going to. Part of the reason I'm doing this, I want to help you develop base processes and methodologies. Now, again, they'll change and you'll morph them and you'll do this and that, but you'll have a good fundamental basis in those ideas. Okay. So there's more to this than the research part of this. Like, and you just saying, hey, I have to do more research. I think that's cool. Do more research. It's up to you which one you want to do. I mean, all these I think are cool ideas. So pick one.
I'll play around with them and like see which one I think I end up like getting further along on in terms of more thumbnails, and then.
Okay, just give me a little more. The next round of this, I want them to start being refined. If we started picking, like we went, okay, we like that. The next round now, I want to see that starting to get refined, and then we just go to sort of.
Like I think I'm gonna choose in between one of the two maps, so I'll just do like a couple designs for each and then see which one I feel has like a better development at that point.
Yeah, it has more potential.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job, you guys. Like a lot of cool ideas. Next, what are we on? Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
So Monday, you got plenty of time now. Let's get these, like, start to refine these things. Okay? Like start to give me a refined idea, drawing, you know, stylization, all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need help with that, let me know. We'll talk about it a little. I mean, we're always talking about that. But one thing I like about with illustrators is like I can go in and go, when I'm drawing, you know, if I have my whole idea, like with Sarah's thing where I have this map, I can go in and individually go, okay, I'm going to do my movie or my van like this. You know, I'm going to have these small tires on it. I'm going to have a name right here. I'm going to have this window. Maybe my little door here and a bumper. You know, and I just map it out like that. I can drop that right into Illustrator and start making that one, right? And the one thing I like about Illustrator is you can kind of, depending on what you're doing, you can kind of make things independent of each other. I've done this a lot where I draw things on napkins or whatever, and then I just come in, take a cell phone picture, throw it in Illustrator, and I start refining it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's one thing I like about it is you can kind of work piecemeal, you know? And then you have these things as one unit, you group them, and you go, okay, I got my car, and now I got a building. Now I'd probably start with a path. I got the path, got some grass and everything. Okay, actually the car needs to go over here. It needs to flip this way. Okay, I'm gonna move this over here. And you can really puzzle it together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things I really like about Illustrator. It's really flexible. Really flexible. Okay, so everybody knows what they're doing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday or Monday, I'm going to see, I'm not going to give you numbers on these, but don't just do some half-ass thing. You got to work through this now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Final size for these things, I'm going to be pretty open on that because I mean, there's a lot of ways this could go. It could be a poster. It could be an insert for a print magazine. It could be a blog thing. It could be, I mean, it could be a lot of things. So I'm going to kind of let you, just don't go tiny. Make sure you're, you know, a reasonable size. Okay. Like, I'd say no bigger than tabloid and no smaller than letter size. Don't care if it's vertical. Don't care if it's horizontal. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll see you guys on Monday and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.